Welcome back to Deposit That, episode 4, Anti-Fragile edition. I'm Jeff Van Note, host, with my co-host Malik. And today we have a very special guest, but before he tells you who he is, gotta play his intro song.
Let's do it.
You're getting your at-bat.
Let's do it.
Benny.
Legend. Benny the Butcher, legend. Word.
Welcome back to New York City, the concrete jungle.
My favorite place on the planet, man.
People think dreams are made of.
Yo, exactly.
If
but
you make them.
You got to work hard to make that happen. Word.
Absolutely.
I had a lot of dreams coming to New York, and I accomplished a lot of them, but, it comes with the territory,
What was it
man.
like running the streets in New York way back when?
Man, I ran up and down NYC, man. Brooklyn's my stomping grounds. I came out the 80s, crack epidemic, coming to New York to source my material. And, I was doing my thing out here in New York heavy. 101st in Amsterdam, Spanish Harlem. You know what I mean?
It was hot back then, too.
Yeah. A lot of money to be made. We was doing our thing. And it was just, for me, it was like, it's just a day in the life. It's like people that work a 9 to 5, they get up, they go to the office, they plug up the laptop, and they get busy. With me, it was like, I'm getting up, I'm figuring out, okay, how do I get to where I need to get to the next day to get the money I need to survive and do what I do? So it was just a day in the life, really, honestly.
I'm going to dive right into this. We got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, now that you're in the corporate, in the corporate world, passive-aggressive people, you could be a jerk-off and have no repercussions, right? Talk to me about the principles and the mottos of the street game versus the boardroom game, and where do they overlap, and also where are they completely in opposite fields? That's what I want people to hear from you.
Yeah. So when you think about the skills that I leveraged in the street game, you know what I mean? I got real big, real fast at a young age. Went to federal prison by 19 years old. In the streets at 13. Mother had a drug addiction, so forth and so on. But I was raised middle class initially. Before that happened to me, I was raised middle class. So very, very, intelligent, reading books, things of that nature. And I got in the streets. I leveraged the DNA intelligence, and I became successful too fast, too quick. Got the attention of law enforcement. Got incarcerated, arrested, incarcerated, whatever. But when I look look at those transferable skills, from marketing product, from sourcing product, from building a network, building clientele, reducing my costs to the highest quality product you could get. Like, those are all the things I use in the streets. And I didn't realize that was entrepreneurship.
Same stuff. Yeah.
That was survival for me.
Yeah.
That was like, how do I use my brain
way.
I needed people to come to me to give me their money.
Right.
How do I do it? The crack is enough, but I need more than that to really push it out there. So when I got into corporate, my first corporate situation was at Carmelu in Boston through Greg Selko. Yeah, he built that company to like 160 million at his peak. Built it from his basement. Streetwear fashion. He's one of the first guys to get into streetwear fashion. Actually, he's one of the first guys that put Kanye West on.
Oh, no kidding.
Like, brought him in on the platform before you know what I mean. Carmelu was a thing popping off, and I actually met Greg. Well, he actually met me. He reached out to me on Twitter. He had heard about my story with Ben Horowitz, which we'll get into later. But he heard about my story. It was like, yo, you the guy I need to talk to. He hit me right on Twitter publicly. Like, I need to talk to you. By the time I was heading out to Silicon Valley to go to Ben's crib, and when I landed at the airport, I immediately got a call. It was Greg Selko calling me directly. I gave my number on Twitter in the DMs. He hit me up like, yo, I need to talk to you. So connected with him, but that was my first corporate opportunity. I eventually connected him with Ben Horowitz. We had a deal on the table at Andreessen Horowitz. It didn't pan out, what have you. But me and Greg remained friends. And during that time, he brought me into Carmelu, my first corporate gig. So I started learning corporate. You know what I mean?
Was it a big transition, being around people that you couldn't necessarily take out?
People rub you. People rub you the wrong way.
Yeah.
And in corporate culture, they're more protected.
Yep.
But when I look at corporate culture, also I see it's more a lot more sharks. You know what I'm saying? Like the street game. They'll backstab you to get that raise, to get that next elevation. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So I've always felt like, I'd love to handle this a different way. with disputes in the office. But then you think about, okay, I'm trying to develop myself into a leader, trying to develop myself into a professional individual. How do I do that much better? Because it's the same
you
thing.
That as a personal challenge. To be
yes, better. Yeah, to be better, be like, okay, I would normally go smack him up, you know what I mean, give him a backhand, whatever. I would normally do that, you know what I'm saying, tie him up maybe, you know what I'm saying, a little duct tape, whatever. You know, I throw him in the trunk. But I'm like,
over the edge of like this 4-story building
like, here. Do a shook knife move on him. Do a shook knife vanilla ice move on him. Yeah. You know what I mean? Make him soil his pants.
Totally.
But I couldn't do that. And plus, you understand, when I got into corporate, I'm representing people that believed in me.
Totally. Can't make them look bad.
Exactly. I can't. Exactly. That's even more so. I gotta be an example to people that come from where I come from, and make sure that I'm not misrepresenting opportunity for the next man that has the same background as I do. 8th grade formal education,
don't hire the black
self-taught.
Guy
Right. 8th grade formal education, self-taught, no tech background, what have you, no corporate background, no formal education. I got to make sure that I represent, and that's always been the first and foremost. And being in corporate and being around people like Ben Horowitz, it allowed me to really like look at integrity and things of that nature, things that I took for granted in the streets. Even though I was a good dude in the streets, I was too good in the streets. But there were certain things I had to do because I was in survival mode.
What do you mean by you're too good in the streets? What do you mean by that?
I was too nice, you know what I mean? I help people, I bless people, I let people in.
Yeah, but that was your purpose, though,
you know?
I feel like.
I think that was part of how I had to learn, like, you deal with the most illest environments or the most volatile environments
and
be able to, not only survive, but also add value to it in a way, you know what I mean? Where the value's not really there. Meaning I'm not getting that value back from anybody. But me being a leader in the streets, me being a mentor in the streets, like I never knew all these type of words that applied to what I was doing.
Just being you.
I was just being naturally who I was, how I was raised. Those first 7 years of that programming, you know what I mean, and living off that.
Exactly. The right thing. In your mind, doing the right thing.
Exactly. In the wrong game. Preparing. And so I jeopardized myself, my well-being. I jeopardized my safety. I jeopardized my freedom, and I eventually was snaked, and I was crucified. You know what I'm saying, in federal prison at 19 years old.
So let's talk about that. Let's bring it back to the 19-year-old you. What was that upbringing like up until 19? What was that background like up until 19 to get you to this place?
Yeah, well, initially, like I said, I was raised middle class. Mother worked hard, provided everything for me and my brother. Father wasn't in my life. I knew who he was. Eventually turned into, a single parent household, even living middle class. But eventually my mother had an emotional mental breakdown, you know what I mean, due to my father's ways and actions. And life changed for me abruptly. I found myself in the projects living with my older sister. I found myself in poverty. I never knew these concepts of poverty and all that. I never knew the concepts of drug dealing and all these things that I started learning while in this new environment. And that's what drove me. I have my son at 16 years old. You know what I mean? His mother was 14, had him at 16, had the child, so I knew I even had to get more
pressure.
Yeah, more pressure to perform and do what I got to do. But I was always responsible in a way of taking care of my business.
Born in 88?
Huh?
When was your son?
89. 89, yeah, close. Yeah, 89. Now that's good.
89.
So with that, my whole focus, this was crazy. My whole focus in the streets was, how do I get my mother out of poverty? How do I get back to the middle class life that I wanted, that we left? Like, that's all I cared about.
So
selling drugs to me wasn't about I'm doing something negative.
Make ends meet.
Yeah, I'm not doing nothing negative. I'm doing this for a positive reason. It's a positive reason why I'm doing this.
To help you or her.
Exactly. So, my whole destination was a proverbial kilo of cocaine, because I knew if I reached a kilo,
you're good.
The money's there. I know what money's coming out of that.
Yeah.
I was very good at math, so I could always calculate things mathematically to say, okay, yeah, I do this, I do that. The math adds up. You know what I mean? Women, like Jay-Z said, men lie, women lie, math don't. Numbers don't lie. Exactly. Right. So that's how I kind of did everything. I kind of would always sit down with my calculator or just think in my mind, how's the math work?
Back it up.
How's the math work? Yeah. Exactly. How do I stack? How do I spend what I need, be disciplined, budget, but make sure I re-up and double up? So every time I read up, I doubled up. You know what I mean? And that's how I did it. I put the equal amount away. Totally. So I already had that. I already had concepts of financial.
That's the foundation. That's the real skill. People don't realize
exactly. I already had foundations of financial intelligence, just from a raw background.
There's only so much of the pie.
So that's basically to end that and answer your question. Finally, is that by 19 years old, I had become someone who was so skilled at the streets, and so by 19 years old, I'm in federal prison. I'm one of the first guys from Rhode Island, the first in my city of Newport, to be charged with the crack law. You know what I mean? With the draconian crack law, where it gave me, you had minimum sentencing guidelines and all that. So for a minimum amount of crack cocaine, I'm doing a lengthy sentence. You know what I mean?
So being you and me knowing you as much as I can know you, based on our time frame of knowing each other, what was your mindset going in? Was it fear? Was it unknown? Was it like, all right, I'm going to spend this time and turn a positive out of this? What did you, because again, people use prison as a physical thing. I think many people live in mental, financial, and emotional prisons every day. So let's use prison as an example. Like everyone lives in some type of prison that they usually put themselves into or allow themselves to remain in. What was your focus going in, and what was that time like, and what was the difference coming out?
So my focus going in when I was in front of that when I was finally in front of the U.S. federal judge in federal prison, I plead to the court. I had to write this letter for acceptance of responsibility because you get points off your sentencing guidelines. So I wrote my letter. I read my letter out, tears coming to my eyes, and pleading for leniency because I knew what my life was. Whether they didn't know what my life was. All they knew was I committed a crime.
They didn't know anything else.
Right, they knew I committed a high level offense that warranted the federal government coming after me at such a young age. I'm 19 years old. But nevertheless, they took none of that in consideration. There was no mitigating circumstances that they could find based on their law that could save me from a lengthy sentence. So I got that lengthy sentence. It was handed down. My son's mother immediately wailed, and my son followed in pursuit, crying, and that was like one of the
real moment.
That was like one of the worst days of my life, and accepted what it was, went to prison, but the judge told me something. He told me think about it like going away to college. My initial thought was like, ain't no college I know like prison.
Yeah.
So when I got to prison, I kind of leaned towards that.
Using it as college.
Yeah. So I started saying, okay, I'm sitting here for 7 years. I need to come out, if not better, at least at the same level of individuals in the streets, so I could be up to speed. So I had completed 8th grade, self-taught beyond that. So I started just studying science, religion, history. I started studying all these things, and I leaned more towards spirituality. Hence my name, Devon. When I came home, I leaned more towards spirituality because that became my fortitude. It became what would fortify my mind, fortify my emotions. No matter what was going on, knowing I had to get back to see my son. So I wanted to get through my bit as quick as possible. So my whole thing was elevate myself, educate myself, get home as fast as I can to get to my son. That was my whole determination.
Purpose. Exactly,
my purpose and my drive. And I became a model in me. You know what I mean? I didn't mess with no gangs. I didn't mess with no religious sects or religious gangs, what have you. I stayed focused on myself. I built myself, and then I came home a better individual.
You went fully internal.
All in on
you.
Yeah.
What was one of the biggest lessons that you taught yourself in being incarcerated? Or what was something that turned Devon into Devon?
Yeah, I would have to say belief in myself. Belief in myself, and then beyond myself, belief in the Most High. Belief in a higher power. Because there's no way I could have made it out of there on my own inclinations. There's no way I could have done it. It had to be something greater than me that wasn't confined, that couldn't be confined. Something greater than me that couldn't be captive, that couldn't be held in a cell, that couldn't be held in shackles or chains or handcuffs. And that was the Most High, which we all possess. And I had to tap into that within me and realize that, okay, I'm greater than this. This is my reality, but it's not my reality. You know what I mean? There's a physical sense of it.
How would it all have ended had you not gotten arrested at 19?
So here's what I said to myself.
Sounds like that was a blessing.
I would have had crazy money, no question about it. I had crazy money, and because I was making crazy money. I mean, I was in the '80s during the '80s crack epidemic. You already know.
Printing money.
Printing money. No money. I've never had a problem with money ever in my life. So it would probably end in two ways, like it always ends: jail or death. Jail or death. So I got the prison. Now I can continue in that way, and then I'll end up with the death. You know what I'm saying? And death is both ways. It's a double-edged sword because I could be killing people through the poison I'm selling them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And or I could be killed in the drug trade, things that I'm doing. So death comes in different ways, man. It ain't always you dying, but also it's you dying because your spirit, who you are as a person inside, is so devilish and unrighteous and dark. Exactly. Dark. So you can't bring nothing good to yourself. You'll never be able to bring anything good to yourself. So me going to prison was I always say is one of the greatest things that ever happened to me.
Like it.
I could always say I preferred if it happened another way.
Yeah.
I preferred if I didn't go to prison and I was able to get what I got.
Sure.
But when I look at it, when I really look at it, there's no way I could be who I am today if I didn't go through them experiences.
Did you feel any, like, I'm imagining you did, just seeing how you spoke about your son. I'm assuming your son's, your world, right? It's your son. You made him, first one. Having a son, right? Knowing two eyes looking up at you like, Daddy, we got this, right? Yeah, I got you, son, Did you live with guilt and shame after that for missing time in your son's life?
Wow, that's a deep question. That's a great question. I've never been asked that. And you know what's crazy about it? I have. So for years, man, I came home, I was always trying to it's almost like my son became the father and I became the child.
You just playing catch up.
Crazy. It was crazy because psychologically, emotionally, that's how I felt. Like he was a father and I was a son, and I'm always trying to make up, and I'm always trying to, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm always trying in my mind, what can I do to make him feel better? Because I know what he went through. I know what he went through.
And would you say he went through that because you went through it as well?
Absolutely. And I have my father in my life. And I have my father in my life. Single parent household.
Talk to me about that for a second. So, not having a father in your life, now all of a sudden you're a father, and now all of a sudden this happens, right? You had almost nothing to fall back on, like what a father is or was to you, and now you're in this role, you're getting this at bat with no practice.
Right.
And now this curveball comes at you.
Right. I didn't have the model of fatherhood. Like I wasn't taught fatherhood.
But I feel like you were taught manhood at a very
early age. Definitely manhood, right? Yeah. Definitely manhood. Responsibility, accountability, having to provide.
Consequences.
Exactly. So I had to grow up fast. I was always mature for my age. That's why I was always ahead of my time on a lot of things. But never having a father in my life, I never seen what fatherhood was like. But I was blessed with that DNA intelligence to understand, what I had to do. Like I understood what you had. It's almost like nature kicks in. Where practice
Human
doesn't,
instinct, yeah.
Exactly. When practice doesn't kick in or experience doesn't kick in, nature kicks in. Yeah. The DNA kicks in. It's been done before by my ancestors. It's there in me.
You tapped into
exactly. So it brought it out of me, seeing my son. But then what happened was I'm always trying to super please him and do it, but being stern still, but still trying to make up for it and always feeling guilty. Like, damn, I left my son.
So now talk about today.
Before we go to that, I'd like to comment on something, just to bring, because I see this is on your mind and it's bringing something to you. Coming from a 27-year-old child's perspective, not even child, young man's perspective, of actually I went through what your son went through. Like my dad left my life, got back into my life, and then went to jail when I was in high school for the exact same thing you went to.
Right there.
For the exact same thing you went to jail for.
Was not planned.
So, I would say from a son's perspective, right? Looking at you, explain that and have the emotions attached to it. And my dad's not here no more. God bless his soul. On the chain always.
Rest in peace,
but one thing I told my dad during this time was, well, I tell y'all up front, I didn't visit my dad in jail. Like I just wasn't. I was always. My mom always told me like, hey, you do something wrong, you go to jail, I'm never gonna visit you. Don't expect that because you knew what your consequences was.
Right.
So in my head, I was like, I might not visit him. Up until it It was one day I needed some advice. I just, in my head, I felt like I had nobody to go through, right?
Right.
And I visited him for the first time. Probably the most heartbreaking moment for both of us. Because I'm mad at him, but he's behind this glass. And I have no jurisdiction to make his situation worse than I'm free. I could walk out of here. He's going back to a place that he's locked in shackles. So one thing I told him in that cell, I said, when you come home, just have a plan. And I was only 16 at the time when I told him that. It was a God's given answer. Like, have a plan when you come home. I don't care what you do, just have a plan when you come home. He comes home, and I kid you not, the one thing my dad did that I could always respect him for, and I hope your son could feel the same way as well, because from what you're saying, I think he will be able to agree, is it wasn't about you doing a perfect job when you came back home. It wasn't about that. We didn't expect that from you. And you may have felt like we knew a bit more in the outside world than you in that moment. But best believe you just being there and you just attempting and doing this word that everybody lost, is you trying. That trying portion is what means the world to us.
Thank you, bro, for sharing that.
That's what means the world to us. It's not about you getting it right, you not getting it perfect. Like, trust me, we gonna grow together. Cause I ain't going nowhere. I'm your son. I came mad at you, brother. We gonna be here together. But that you every day, hey son, what's up? And that overcompensation that you did, trust and believe that's gonna be a memory in his back of his head. Like, I remember my pop said this one stupid shit, and I gave him a look, and this nigga was apologizing, doing the most. But it feels good because not only am I learning as a man what men's supposed to do, and you had to go through the worst to learn it, I get to learn it right here from you. So those moments of you showing the overcompensation, pop, I'm not gonna do it like that, but I understand when you said I apologize at the end, that's all I needed. And you being there, the everyday factor of, all right, listen, I missed these years, but these years, gone.
Yeah, what we got now, man. That means everything. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because as you can tell, like, you know, when I get deep into my story,
you feel it.
It's emotional, man. It like just taps certain things that the memories, man, everything I went through.
Relive it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
So bring us into the present.
Yeah.
Who is D-Money in a different sense today, August 2024?
D-Money, I like that.
Street D-Money.
Yeah.
Divine. Divine money.
So my nickname was Cool D. You know what I mean? I love the D-Money though. I love that because I was getting that money.
Yeah.
I'm known for that.
Yeah.
I'm like a magnet. I attract
Gotta
it.
get D-Money.
But yeah, so becoming divine, man, was a whole 360-degree metamorphosis. Just how I moved, just how I thought, just how I behaved. And you know, when I first got spirituality at a high level too, I was like in tune with a high level, but that just I wasn't complete. It wasn't enough to keep me from going back to selling drugs.
Totally.
It wasn't enough to keep me from, being promiscuous still, or running the streets. I had never been a drinker, and then when I came home, started drinking from depression and all these things I never did before.
Now we got Midtown Biohack to cure all this.
Exactly.
Shout out Midtown Biohack.
Exactly. Shout out Midtown Biohack. Chuck on deck. So being who I am now, it's like just that curious, purpose-driven, passionate, mission-driven individual, wanting to just elevate my life at the highest level.
And keep going.
Right, at the highest level, there's no stopping.
So would you say everything that you do is just with crystal clear intention and focus now?
Yeah. I try not to deviate from the straight and narrow path.
Bigger mission.
Yeah, from the straight and narrow path. Because I know the straight and narrow path is when I'm focused on that, the universe is gonna bring everything along that pathway that I need
when you need it,
to accomplish what I want. Because everything I put into the universe, it already knows. It's just a timing thing, right? And that's how it's always been. Like when I was in prison, educating myself, being self-taught, certain books would find me. I wouldn't find those books. They would just pop up. It was crazy because when I first went in, the Holy Quran, it popped up in my cell. And I didn't even expect that. I went to a place where I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I'm supposed to read this. I'm supposed to read this and gain insight and gain light and then take that and then build upon that. I studied Christianity. I studied Zen Buddhism. I studied, Islam. I studied all world religions, man. You know what I mean? Judaism, all those. And what I found with religion was that all religions meet at 2 points. And those 2 points are the belief in a higher power, period. All of them, belief in a higher power and being right and just, being righteous. Living a clean life, being clean, and being clean doesn't just mean physically you washing yourself up. It means you washing your spirit up. first and foremost. Because if your spirit's not clean and you haven't washed that up, ain't nothing gonna be clean.
That's your inside.
You know what I'm saying? Exactly. You gotta be clean in every way in how you deal with life. And that leads to when Devon, met Ben Horowitz. So we can get to that chapter whenever you're ready. When I met,
go
into it now.
Who is this Ben that you speak of?
So Ben is my angel, man. Ben is my he's absolutely my angel. Ben was my angel.
Are there angel Bens in the Bible? Chuck. Sorry. Are there any angel Ben
Abraham.
or Benjamin in the Bible?
Abraham.
What? Angel Ben in the Bible? Yes.
So Benjamin.
I'm a believer.
Ben is Jewish, so Abraham is his middle name. So Ibrahim. You know what I'm saying? If you speak Arabic, Ibrahim. But Abraham, yeah.
We really should have done a collective. People did it one day, 5 of us, 6 of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But Ben became my angel, man. He became my savior in a lot of ways. So if you look at my life, when I look at my life, it's 3 major events in my life that led me to where I'm at right now, sitting with you. The first one was crack, right? Crack was a major theme. Drug dealing, my mother's addiction, not having a father in my life, single parent household, crack, and then rap. When I got incarcerated, became the second major thing in my life that drove me.
Hip hop.
Exactly. I was always a writer. I was always a performer. I was always a lyricist. But when I got into prison, I had the time to really hone my skills. I learned about the music business A to Z. I became an executive when I returned, started my own record label. So from crack to rap, right? That's the second part. The third part is the tech. From crack to rap to tech. And tech is when I met Ben.
So those are 3 pillars.
Yes, and that's when I met Ben. But each one ties into the other, which is crazy. So when I was in the hood making music, I came across a Mac computer in the studio. Nobody in the hood knew what a Mac was.
And that's probably the first time in 80
years. Exactly. No one knew what a Mac computer was. But I was in there. I was in there dealing with Apple, so I was exposed to Apple products at a young age because I was a performer and an artist. So I was in the studio when they had started using computers in creation of music. So I'd already been exposed to Mac and Apple, and I've always been intrigued by technology. Right, I've always like electronic I've always like electronic gadgets and all that. All that. So when I met Ben, that's when I really learned about tech, like what tech is, outside of my minimal experience with it. Right, when I learned that, it was like the floodgates open. It's like he was Moses and split the Red Sea.
Wow.
And I could walk through.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Powerful.
Pharaoh let my people go. Split the Red Sea. I'm out of here. I'm going to the promised land. I ran through it.
Quick.
So you already know. 3 years within Silicon Valley after meeting Ben Horowitz. Matter of fact, let's not even say 3 years. The first year after meeting him, I started my first Fintech company. Black Fintech. And Black was an acronym that stood for Building Leverage, Acquiring Knowledge. 2015, got into my first accelerator. Started learning formal entrepreneurship and startup building. First time exposed to it. Started learning that.
And so all those still ahead of the tech game. So really didn't pop off for a couple years.
Right. So all those transferable skills went into me learning that, becoming, formally learned in entrepreneurship. But within 3 years, I became known in Silicon Valley as a super connector and hyper networked, because I took the hustle from the streets.
You wear the S on your chest or no?
Nah, I kept the cape in the suitcase, though, you know what I mean?
Cape under the shirt.
Yeah, for real, you know what I mean? I only pulled out when I needed. But so that's how I became known as, and that's because I leveraged my hustle from the streets and how I move, just connecting with people, telling my story, hearing other people's story, you know what I mean? Being a great listener, but also being a great storyteller, to be able to tell my story in a way that it connects with people from a higher level. And the way I would frame that was that I'd be like, yo, we're all human. Don't matter, I was incarcerated. We all can meet on a human level.
Sit at the same table.
Exactly, we all meet on a human level. Compassion, ambition, determination. We the same.
Love.
I just said exactly love.
All bleed.
Good point, love. So all these things we connect on a human level, and that's how I would approach my connecting with people from worlds that I had never imagined I would be in. So Ben exposed me to all of that. You know what I mean? And that's why I credit him So much so. You read the Forbes article
Listen,
on me.
I was going
yeah,
to
so
give you your
you
credit.
Just so you know, have you ever seen the dynamic yet? I'm the guy that wings it. That's the guy that plans and does the research and development. Right?
Yeah. No,
I got
like
the vision.
That.
He does the R&D.
Yeah, the left and right sides of the brain.
I want to first say that.
I like that. The balance.
It was actually really from a 27-year-old perspective. It was really dope to actually read your story on Forbes. Like, to be honest with you, I was like, man, like, those are the stories that I'm thinking that Forbes wants to push. All those like hard nosed. He came from this,
round
got this,
two,
and
second chances.
The show and proof, right?
Right.
So reading this, I was I was enlightened and I was inclined to write this quote down. And please, I'm gonna paraphrase right now for you guys.
Do your thing.
So you say in your Forbes interview, it's an uphill battle. It's people like myself and stories like mine. That's what will bring great awareness. You just have to know it exists, know what you're capable of, and where the power structures are. You said that. What, 7 years ago you did that?
Yeah, I think I did that. Yes, like at least 7 years ago, at least.
Absolutely.
I've known Ben 10 years, so yeah.
So you saying that 7 years ago and still having that energy today.
Yeah.
What are some things that you would like to bring awareness to? Within tech, outside of tech? What are those things?
Just first and foremost, love, man. Like we all battle with different internal biases towards each other as a human family. Like, we a human family, man, no matter what it is. At the end of the day, that's the highest level you can reach. Not like, this is my religion, you know what I mean? Or this, that, and the third, how we separate ourselves from each other. Break all those barriers of separation and become like the human family. We all have a place within the human family, no matter what. We all have a place. So it's all about how do we do better together? How do we do better together? And that's kind of where it boils down to, because we've already tried to separate it, and we know what we're doing. We hurting and killing one another.
Right.
Not going well.
You know what I mean? It's not going well at all. And we want to change that. So I would say love is the first thing. The next thing is, consciousness, man. Consciousness, awareness. Because if you don't have those things, that consciousness or that awareness, you never know. Like, I never knew Silicon Valley was a power structure. I didn't know that's where power lied. Imagine if I had known that at a young age, and I would have aspired to be in Silicon Valley and change the world with my thinking and my innovative way that I approach problems or what have you.
Before you keep
it would have been different.
God didn't call that for you, though. He needed you to go through what you went through.
Yeah.
No one would have cared about your story if you went right from
Yeah,
there. without
no,
right,
no doubt. No doubt. So again, we all got to go
Let me
through.
rephrase that. Not that no one would care. It wouldn't have been as
impactful
or inspiring.
No doubt.
Take on it.
No doubt. Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. And I said that earlier. Like, I had to go through what I had to go through to get where I'm at. And I'm here. When I look at my life, I've never been somebody that looked at my life as. I've always looked at my life in the mode of a servant. Like, service others. So yeah, of service, to be of service, a vice general of the Most High, the representative, which goes back to my name, Divine. I'm just here to be the best I can be and express that through my physical form and through my vehicle and through the things I create, the ideas that I'm inspired to do. It's none of mine. I'm just a vessel on the channel of it. You see what I'm saying? Because it's already all in the universe.
It's all there.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just here to bring that particular, that particular makeup of it to the world.
Hope the right people listen.
Yeah, exactly.
So within that, do you or have you been affected by the power structure that you speak of? Have you been affected positively or negatively by it?
I mean, it's a double-edged sword. Okay. Because it's a power structure that would have never let me in.
Ever.
They wouldn't have let me in.
Yeah, the Great Wall of China there.
Exactly. Why would they let me in? Why would Silicon Valley let me in?
Lose control,
you
lose
know what
power.
I mean? They had no reason to let me in. So when you see this big influx of African Americans and people of color, so-called, coming into Silicon Valley during the time that I was coming in,
which was early.
Which was early. A lot was going on. Like, the dynamics of politics of the world was moving in certain ways where they open up doors. They embraced DEI afterwards. Years later, they embraced DEI. Now they want to shut down DEI.
Well, it was too late for a headline.
Right.
For a headline.
Exactly. So everybody has their own agendas.
Right.
And like I said in my Forbes article, you read it. Why would they let me in?
Right.
Why would they give me a seat at the table?
Right.
I'm a convict. I'm an ex-convict. I'm a criminal.
You said that.
I'm a crack dealer.
I'm black.
You see what I'm saying?
And I'm young at that.
I waited to get to that one. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm not from Yale. I'm not from Harvard.
I don't got none of the background.
I don't have an Ivy League school education. I'm self-taught. 8th grade formal education. Has no background in tech. Why would they let me in?
Yeah,
They wouldn't.
No business being here in their eyes.
But the Most High saw fit, the universe saw fit to inspire a man who had all the power within that structure.
So yo,
Yeah,
Devon,
And
you
let me
really
in.
actually had the power, not them.
he did.
It's a glitch within the matrix.
So you said
A
in that
glitch within the matrix. That's Ben Horowitz. He's a glitch within the matrix,
You
and
said
that's
it-
why I love that man.
You said in that Forbes interview, in my demographic, they don't know the power that exists in Silicon Valley. We don't know there's opportunity there.
Yeah, I never knew till I met Ben. When I saw what technology did for him, like the life he was living,
Oh, forget about it.
I was like,
it's the only way you're gonna make it today.
I got back on that plane after that weekend celebrating his birthday with him. I got back on that plane, and I just started planning and plotting, like, what can I do in tech? What can I do in tech? And then lo and behold, my man, I was working at Carmelu, and my man sent me some. It was a deck of this financial technology product. I was like, yo, if I could flip this product like this and do it my way, I could create millions and help my people and help people for real. So I was actually creating an alternative to the Rush Card that really empowered the community. Not just said they empowered the community.
Yep.
So I was dealing with prepaid debit.
The
Prepaid debit at that time, you know what I'm saying? And I eventually would get into banking, neobank, building a neobank and a financial empowerment platform, which is from Black Fintech, which I talked about earlier. Solvent has become that new thing. 2 years ago, when I started Solvent, and AWS, Amazon invested, and we partnered with Visa. So yeah.
Okay.
What do you think Ben saw in you to give you that at bat?
Great question.
The initial touch point was music.
Oh, it was.
It was Rakim.
That's where you connected.
Rakim was the initial touch point, because I knew that Rakim was his favorite artist. I had just performed with Rakim in January out in Universal City. Graced the same stage as Rakim. It was a crazy evening, crazy night. I had some pictures of that, and I shared pictures with Ben. And I told him I had read his story. I read about him, and he saw the picture of Rakim, and that just opened up
Whole new door.
his heart. That was a spark to open his heart
That
up.
was the key.
So indirectly, Rakim was responsible for getting the attention that Ben initially showed me, and then Ben learned from me, you know, who I am and what I am. I wrote the song Venture Capitalists Like Ben Horowitz. That kind of solidified the relationship. He played it for Nas, and from there, you know, next thing I know, I'm meeting him in New York City. I'm out in Silicon Valley for his birthday, celebrating that, and everything just was a whirlwind. I created that whirlwind and that momentum that just elevated everything for
momentum.
me. Yeah,
Full momentum.
elevated everything for me.
So, Devon,
Yeah.
I call this Greg Jeff's favorite time.
He's thinking of Fragile. He forgot the anti-part, so he thought of Greg,
Yeah.
the prior guest. Fragile, Greg.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Piecing it together.
So Jeff loves this part, and this is it's becoming my favorite part just to introduce it, because I love the way he gets excited. This is the anti-fragile part. This is where we start asking you some tough questions.
Oh, okay.
Get under your skin a little
I wasn't
bit.
even prepared for that.
See what,
Okay.
see what,
Guys,
see
you're
what.
trying to
you
play
know,
me.
we thought we was having a nice.
You're trying to play me. Trying to play me out.
You thought those was the tough
New York.
questions. Nah. We just getting
Nah, I
to know
love
you, brother.
this. Let's
So,
go, man. Shoot.
My first question right now, with you not only being as involved with financials from young and you knowing financials, do you feel like it has been a responsibility within your wealth?
Within my wealth?
Yes, like do you feel like it's a responsibility with wealth? You having your wealth, was it a responsibility to obtain, hold, cherish? Do you have a responsibility to the money that you have made?
Oh yeah, no question. I never had financial intelligence. I was never exposed to the process of wealth building, how you do it. And through my journey, I've met so many individuals, from Ben to so many others, that have removed the curtain, or I passed the curtain, and I've been able to see it firsthand and understand it. Because it's one thing to be exposed to it; it's the next thing to understand it. Then the third thing is to execute upon it. You know, I don't care how much financial literacy you have, or how much financial intelligence you have. If you don't execute upon that or any other knowledge, it's useless. You're gonna lose it. If you don't do it, you're gonna lose it. You know what I mean? Or if you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. Same thing. So I definitely have a high responsibility, because when I look at my legacy, if I have a company that's all about financial empowerment, and I myself am not practicing that, which I'm
You're a
teaching,
hypocrite.
I'm a hypocrite. You know what I mean? My whole thing is to get in, learn the lay of the land, and then go back to the hood and empower them. That's always been the mission. Always been the mission. So yeah, I do have a responsibility and accountability to myself with how I leverage financial intelligence and my money
this
and
series
build
is
wealth.
called the Anti-Fragile Special Series.
Yeah.
Only special individuals who I
Okay.
believe have anti-fragile ingrained into them,
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
they know it or not.
Yeah.
What does anti-fragile mean to you when you think of those word combinations?
Shit, not weak, man. Unbreakable. You know what I'm saying? Not weak, unbreakable.
I would say your story's
Impregnable.
pretty anti-fragile.
Yeah, impregnable. You can't, like Tyson would say, I'm impregnable, baby. I'm impregnable, baby. My defense is impregnable. You know what I mean? So yeah, so like that's what I think when I say anti-fragile. Not being soft. You know what I'm saying? Not being weak, being strong, being unbreakable, man. And I've shown and proven that even with having, because you have that both polarities. You got to be soft to be hard.
Yeah.
You got to know soft to be hard. Right. You got to know hard to be soft. You know what I'm saying? So when I look at my life has always been, I've been in a position of being, I have to be anti-fragile. I'm not going to succeed. I'm not going to survive. You know what I'm saying?
You can't.
You can't.
Especially with what's coming in the market.
So I've learned to have thick skin.
What practices? Because this, I love this question because I love when guests show that they have grown from the one place they were to where they are now. It's a beauty because you can kind of see when they reflect on certain things when they were younger and they bring it to the forefront here. So I would ask you, what practices did you execute or what practices did you do for that personal growth? During whatever period, what do you practice to help that personal growth continue on building? And you're going to get better today, the same way you got better yesterday, and then tomorrow I'm going to get even better. So what do you practice to help our viewers out there?
I took a lot from prison. Like prison was my structure of research, study. You know what I mean?
Isolation.
Because because study is a reward of research. If you research something, you don't study, there's no reward to it. And then the greater reward after that is applying it in your life to make the changes that either you researched or you read about and you studied. So what I would say is that reading has always been one of my strongest powers, and belief in the Most High. Those are my two superpowers. If I had to lay it down to like what's divine superpowers? How does divine tick? How does divine do it? First and foremost, the Most High. Belief in a higher power, channeling that higher power through me, and being righteous and just in everything that I do, striving for that perfection. Because if you strive for perfection, it's like if you shoot for the sun, you land on the moon, you off the earth.
Right.
No matter what, you broke gravity, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So no matter what, you good. So striving for that perfection, I was taught that in prison. Study, research, reading. And then the second superpower would be reading, man. Reading. But not just reading anything. Having the awareness to know what to read. Because a lot of people, they could be readers all day.
Right. Just reading nonsense.
We read nonsense, yeah, exactly. But a lot of dudes inside was reading, Donald Goins and all that. You know what I mean? Iceberg Slim and all that. Nah, I'm reading the Iceman Inheritance. You know what I'm saying? I'm reading all types of high-level literature. You know what I mean?
What would be a book or two that you'll give our viewers that they should tap into?
You know the one I'm voting for. I'm gonna say it, let you say it.
If it's not the hard thing about hard things, Ben, I have to say the first and foremost has to be Think and Grow Rich, and The Richest Man in Babylon. Like, cause those books incept in your mind. It's like mind inception.
Yeah, their foundation.
Yeah, to build off of. It's all. I mean, and a lot of people read Think and Grow Rich, and they don't even understand what the secret is. They don't even understand what is the secret. Remember that Napoleon Hill was talking about that secret that Carnegie wrote on the paper and told him this is it, and he never told you what Carnegie wrote down.
Right.
I was building with my nephew the other day about this. I'm like, yo, what was the secret? I'm like, yo.
You gonna tell him?
I'm gonna give him the secret.
Oh, yeah, drop the gem.
So I was telling my nephew, if you look at the title, Think and Grow Rich. So if the purpose of the book is to grow rich, and that's in the title, what the hell? How do you grow rich?
You gotta think.
You gotta think, but you gotta think in a certain way.
You gotta think with action.
And you gotta think with certain elements and infuse that thinking with certain things. That's why you have him talking about the sexual energy and all these different things. Come on, man. Things that we can have the power and ability to leverage. But most people don't want to think.
Nope.
That's the problem.
Make the money come to you.
Most people don't want to think.
Yep. Make the money work for you.
That's a problem. So you'll never grow rich.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying to you. So believe in a higher power and reading.
So as we close up the episode, we have our guests give the listeners one thing to deposit that to their memory bank, their brain bank, to implement into their life today. They listen to it, episode cuts off. What's one thing you want people to do immediately?
Think and Grow Rich, and understand the hard thing about hard
You kind of
things.
cheated me on that one.
You did.
Yeah,
But that was cold.
okay, I'll give you something else. Let me add on to that though.
That was cold.
Think and Grow Rich, and understand that the hard thing about hard things is nothing easy.
Bingo.
And the harder thing about harder things, still nothing easy. So, it's all about personal self-development. Unpacking anything that's negative in your life. I don't care what it is. Your mother did crack. You sat in prison for 10 years. No matter what it is, unpacking that.
Appreciate you coming out here, man.
Thank
Welcome
you for
back to
having
New
me,
York
man.
City.
Word
Appreciate
up.
you, Devon. Appreciate you.
Word up.
Hey, and that's